NVIDIA. Oh, poor NVIDIA. Topping pattern, flirting with the 20 here for a while. It's just a matter of time. Sell off. And if you notice, price opened here and is now here. So there is no buy the dip in NVIDIA. That's fairly telling. So is there more downside for NVIDIA? Most likely. Most likely. So we have to see where the narrative goes. Does it shift? Do we get I think that if any portion of the tariffs, the reciprocal tariffs, are reversed by the Supreme Court, which would be ridiculous. I mean, what does the Supreme Court have to do with the presidential power to tariff? I don't know, but maybe they'll just say, this is not our business. Or maybe they'll say, it's unconstitutional. You can't. God, the state of affairs is just ridiculous. We've had tariffs for a very long time, and countries have been tariffing the crap out of us for a very long time. But we'll see what happens. I think if any portion of those tariffs get reversed, you might see a little bit of a rally in the market, believe it or not. Because if you think about it, there's one narrative out there that says that tariffs are inflationary. Somebody's going to have to pay for it. Well, guess what? The producers have been paying for it. Some consumers have been paying. There are some prices on certain goods that have gone up because of tariffs. This is true, but the majority have not. And the proof of that is the inflation numbers have not skyrocketed. We don't have skyrocketing inflation on a lot of the things that we thought would be incredibly inflated once the tariffs started to hit. Now, we've had the tariffs on for a very long time, right? For what, 7 months now? And so you're not seeing it. But there's still a narrative out there, and there's merit to this argument, that tariffs are inflationary. Of course they are, to a certain extent. But in the end, the idea is that if more Americans stop buying the products that are being exported here that have the tariff on it, and they start buying more American products that are made here that don't have the tariff on it, then those costs will go down. And if manufacturers here start buying more of their raw materials here, which is another reason why we need to develop more raw materials here. We need to have fair trade on raw materials. If we ship out, soybeans to China and then they send us copper or whatever it is, right? It's a bad example. But, fair trade, then that the raw materials that we need to make things here will be less expensive, and it'll be good for us. And then the products that they consume over there won't be hugely tariffed or tariffed at all, and so it'll be good for them. So the whole point of tariffing right now is to get no tariffs. The whole point is to have it be somewhat of an even playing field. However, there are some that say that some of the things that we have are so unique to the United States and are, that are so, that are worth more. But striking that, if we want to sell cars all over the world, which helps our auto industry, we should be able to. And there are areas around the world that do not accept our vehicles, or if they do, they tariff the crap out of them because they don't want the value of their cars to go down. Well, yes, so they're doing that, but when we do it, it's unconstitutional. So if we want a tariff, it just doesn't make sense. So the whole point is, I agree with you, Michael. The whole point is balance. So because tariffs are viewed by some as inflationary, if some of those tariffs have to be paid back, and we are not tariffing across the board, then that would in some ways, keep inflation at bay. And if you keep inflation at bay, then the markets like that. So I guess in the way I like to hear, Supreme Court says, no tariff, can't do that, whatever that is. So then that means that no tariff, that's the decision there. So that would mean potentially that the cost of importing certain goods that we need for either manufacturing or that we're just going to resell here would go down. So if that's true, it goes down, then inflation becomes under control. And if inflation starts to drop like this, that leads to the Fed says, okay, we'll do a rate cut. And if they do a rate cut, it's like the markets love that. So my opinion is that if the Supreme Court comes back and says, you're not going to be able to do this, this, and this, that the markets overall will view that as a positive, which would lead to initially a short-term rally in the markets. Everybody understand that flow? So there's that. Makes sense, right? So if that's true, or even if it's not true, what stocks do you think really aren't that affected by the whole tariff scenario? Well, metals aren't really. Energy really isn't. Look at energy. Energy doesn't give a shit about this. Oil, with crude, potentially. There's some other industries and sectors that may not be that affected by the whole tariff situation. Google's a good example, yeah. Meta, perhaps. So those stocks could potentially find buyers. And when that happens, you start to get the reversal to the upside. So we have to watch for that and see what transpires there. Yeah, yes is the answer to that. The U.S. businesses should benefit, but I think it's a short-term benefit, if anything. I think tariffs are actually good overall. To create more balance in the global marketplace. A lot of people don't like them. A lot of people don't understand them. A lot of people don't understand it's a negotiation. And U.S. businesses will suffer and have suffered as a result of trade imbalance. So short-term pain, long-term gain is what tariffs are about. But I don't believe that U.S. companies are going to benefit. What I believe is U.S. businesses in the stock market will benefit because investors will view it as positive and will buy and will get call options out of the money in anticipation of the narrative that U.S. businesses should benefit. Does that make sense? That's the way I view it.
Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video from Trade With Me Now. Make sure to go ahead and like this video and subscribe to our channel so you make sure that you catch our next video right when it's released. Also, if you have a question or comment, please leave that in the comments section below. And of course, if you want to learn more about Trade With Me Now or join our community of profitable traders, go to tradewithmenow.com. There's also a link in the description below.